Greetings, greetings. Welcome to this Father's Day special. Um, you all have not heard my voice in a while, in a long time on this channel. But on this occasion, again, because it is an observance of Father's Day, um, I have the privilege of being able to be on with you all. Thank you, Cam. Without any further ado, today's build is phenomenal and it's right on time because we are at a point to where spiritually we are evolving, spiritually we're growing, spiritually we are coming back to the place of remembrance as to who we are and the power that we possess. However, even still, it is so important for us to have a better and deeper understanding and understanding of the things that we're up against. Um, Day after day, we are being bombarded with information. Um, and because there is so much, again, it behooves us to not be better aligned with ourselves. And today we have an awesome author, spiritual leader, um, one that has a higher conscious, a higher state of mind that puts us on the level that we need to be. And we've known this brother for some time. We've had the privilege of meeting with him, sharing time and space in person with him, and he's a wonderful guy. He's a great father. Um, but on the side of what we're gonna be dealing with and talking about today, just a magnificent, and brilliant mind of our time. Um, True enough, he was far ahead of his time when he delivered the monumental volume of the Functionary. And so without any further ado, I want his work and him to speak for himself since we have him here today. And I introduce to some and present to you all none other than Dr. Blynd.
Wow. Hey, Ernest and Cam, it is such a pleasure to see you all together and have this opportunity. I'm very honored for you all to share this space and opportunity to speak with your guests and your following and all the folks. It's been it's been a little while since we've had an opportunity to do this, and I always look forward to it when the opportunity presents itself. And what you have just articulated is so prescient and very important because, as you had mentioned, I came out with a lot of the stuff in the Functionary and put it in there, and I knew that hmm, uh, it was going to take some time for a wider or broader awakening. I knew that the time, uh, it was for those who at that point were ready for it. But sometimes, things come and you have to just really, you feel that the reception is wide enough. When you're called or you have a gift or whatever, you just do it. You put it out there, you express it, and whenever the time is right for a wider reception is there, then that's what happens. So yeah, and this is a wonderful day for fathers, in recognition of fathers and the importance of fatherhood and the attacks that have been on fatherhood in our community anyway, for such a long time. And so, I'm looking forward to diving into, wherever you want to really take this and kind of really keep it. Um, just dive into, whatever areas, Cam Ernest, you want to go into.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Not sure. We had a few times your audio went out a little bit. I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi or you're using your cellular data, but if we hear it again, we'll let you know if we need to pause and see if we can make the reception better.
Oh, okay. Should I take the Wi-Fi off or keep it on?
Keep it on.
Keep it on.
That way you got both working.
Yeah, that way you got both working.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's just the frequency, sometimes it can just be the frequency of the conversation. We're discussing something that has a goal to set people free from spell casting. So I think one area that I would like to start is, why did you feel words were so important to take the time and do this? And what years did it take to do this work? When did this begin for you, when you realized we need to be able to have a etymological breakdown of the
Yeah,
language?
yeah. Good question. So I started, I would say probably on the Funktionary itself in the late '80s. Uh, yeah, and that was in essentially the conceptualization of it. The in my estimation, the need for it in our community, and I think up around 1996 was the first time that I really published it. And it was about maybe 200 pages back then. And then I just continued on, and over time, the course of time, just added more material, layered it with different ideas and concepts that I thought that were important for us to, as a community, to understand, not only from our own spiritual awakening, but also from the standpoint of the control systems that were in place and that are in place that really are an impediment to our freedom and our expression of our own creativity and our own desires and designs to live in a much more harmonious. So I would say, in terms of the words, um, you would look up in the definitions of different things, and whether it's the not black, that was later on. That's a law. In Webster's dictionary and all this kind of type of stuff, there are so many biases, and they are deliberate. And the typical dictionaries do not have.
We lost you for a moment.
Even
Okay,
when
we
the
got you back now.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not sure exactly what's going on my end. But in any event, huh?
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have
Oh,
issues with the Wi-Fi there? Maybe we could try cutting it off and see what happens.
yeah. Try that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Try that.
And let me make sure I got.
You got your Wi-Fi.
Yeah. It's set. I mean, I got a lot of bars. So okay. Okay, we can. I got a lot of bars, so we should be okay from my end.
All right. Well, I'll continue, and then you just let me know if you still incur that
Okay.
interruption. Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay.
back to the words in the dictionaries. They were embedded with a lot of racism and biases and things of that nature. And I'm like, nah, you know what? This and they don't have context. Uh, uh, very Trump. And okay, well, let me put my mind to looking into what really needs to happen from the standpoint of language and the structure of language, and to investigate words, go into the etymology of different words, and to find out whether they help.
We lost you again.
Um, we are the ones that provide meaning. Definitions really are just means or capsules, if you will, or containers that look to put meaning in a static form, but life itself is always flowing. So I came up with infinition because we are constantly evolving, constantly changing, and with that in mind, um, I decided to really bring much more nuance from a semantic standpoint.
Mm.
What's called general semantics, and Alfred Korzybski and some other things dealing with language and how we're word control people. And if you can laminate the language in such a way, it will laminate your thought. And when I say laminate, in the sense of it will press it down, and it's not breathing.
We just lost you again.
Static, and whatever is embedded or enciphered into those words have a have a way of programming our thoughts and limiting them, and it just became overwhelmingly obvious to me. We needed, when I say we, as a community, I needed to bring further clarity and exposure to how language can either imprison us or liberate us, depending upon how we understand, approach, and really investigate.
The last thing we heard was investigate.
You know what? Well, it is, then it must be on my side.
Okay.
So,
You
yeah,
want to try to come out and come back in.
yeah.
Disable as well.
Oh, well,
Just swipe down. You ought to be able to just swipe down from the top and just disable your Wi-Fi. If your device is connected to your Wi-Fi at home.
Okay. You know what? I'm also going to reposition myself. Maybe if I'm, closer to, I'm going to try to reposition myself and see whether or not that will help.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. If it is in fact me over here. So
Just give him a moment.
Y'all, we're giving him a moment so that he can reposition himself to see if it helps with the connection. You know, call on the ancestors too, is standing in space with us, because this information is so much information you can get all day long is not going to really do anything to set you free. So, it's time for us to move out of those frequencies and to start giving our attention to things that deserve our attention, because wherever attention goes is where energy goes. And if we starve the agendas of our energy, we can shift it, but you have to shift your attention to do that. So it's not a surprise to me that we having a few hiccups. If you all been knowing us for a while, you know how that goes. But that just lets you know how informative that this information really is. The 3D matrix is a real thing. The prison planet is a real thing. The simulated reality is a real thing. Our words create thoughts. Thoughts create thought forms. That is a real thing. So this is spiritual warfare, just having these types of high level conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So others want to touch on fatherhood just real quickly. I'll do that. So it is as we as I alluded to earlier and on your flyer as well. Fatherhood has been in the Black community.
Okay, you dropped out.
Okay. All right. So it looked like I went out again, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said fatherhood has been in the Black community.
Okay. Yeah. So let me do this if you don't mind. I think Cam, I'm going to.
I could email the link if you want to get on your laptop or desktop.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's try that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm going to.
Yeah. So just copy the link. Well, I got the link. I'll just send it to his email so he can open it on his desktop.
Okay. And while we are doing that, y'all, we'll go ahead and play some music from these new projects. Which one?
You can just start whichever one is up there first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're gonna play a song called "I Want to Be a Safe Place." And just listen to the words and feel into it yourself. I feel like R&B needed an upgrade, so this is why we did this song. So I got it. Sometimes you have to toggle the volume and then hit play. That's what I did earlier, and it worked. Thank y'all for being patient with us. Let me just make sure it ain't nothing going on with the track. No, it's not what it is, huh? Okay.
I'll try to re-upload.
Okay. It's Bobby Him would say, "How y'all doing out there?" Ashe, I see you, sis. A lot of my sacred sisters in here with us. We appreciate y'all for joining us. We're gonna see if we can get this music playing for y'all while we give him time to get repositioned.
That's crazy.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got him back, y'all. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully it won't be any more, any more.
Yeah, hiccups.
Yeah. All right. So going back to the topic of fatherhood. So uh, you know, fatherhood has been under attack in the Black community for such a long period of time. I mean, it goes way back, but certainly um, with regards to or the times during when welfare was being brought in to as a means mm, uh, of attrition for
Mhm.
Black couples. Because what happened is that, and I'm sure your audience knows this. The Black father, if the father was in the household, the mother would not receive, or the spouse or whatever would not receive the benefits. Well, it wouldn't be the wife, because it was under different circumstances. But in any event,
Mhm.
there was a economic incentive that the government actually established, where the father, if the father was not in the household, then the money would come in. And so that was really in the 80s, early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And it really
Mhm.
set the tone. I think it was around the Reagan time.
Mm.
It's been a bit of a time now uh, for me to specifically get that date. But anyway, around those times, that's where a lot of the mm, degradation of the Black family unit
Mhm.
started happening, and it just ended up wreaking all kinds of havoc, because in everything that we do is in relationship, and when the energy balance of the masculine and feminine are thrown off, it really creates havoc in the unit of the specific relationship, and also the wider relationship in the community. So
Mhm.
that was one of the early instances of attack on Black fatherhood and the Black family unit, I would say, even more importantly. And so,
Mhm.
with that being said, we have to have a strong father, not just a father figure. Obviously, relationships have their own dynamics, but there has to be a strong masculine presence in the Black family. And fortunately for my own self, I came from a two-parent household, and I had a very strong father figure, and just kind of set the example. And back then, I'm talking about in the 60s and 70s, when I grew up, there were more Black family units that where you had the mother and the father in the household. And
Mhm.
it was around the 80s, like I said, is when the attack, if you will. And I think some of
Mhm.
it came from the Moynihan report and some of the other things where they did a study of all this stuff. And so it's so important, because if we don't balance the relationship and the family unit, then there's all kinds of fallout, psychologically, emotionally,
Mhm.
culturally, in all different kind of ways. Abuse happens from all different angles, and it just really is a deterioration of the Black family unit. And you know, um, we need strong uh, father figures and fathers in the Black family. And
Mhm.
that's just I have seen it, over my lifetime, through my own experiences with my own upbringing, and also in my adult life and in the communities, and from a socio-economic and political standpoint. There's no, we understand that we're in the conditions that we are largely because of the breakdown of the Black family unit.
Yes, indeed.
What advice would you give to those, whether men
Can you hear
or
me, Cam?
women? Yes, can you hear us? Hold on, you make sure you can hear us.
Hello?
Hold on. That's not it either. Can you hear us? Okay.
See if we can get that off.
Like that? Okay. Are you able to hear us now? I think
We come through about here.
You can hear it on the phone. So it's not this. Okay. 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 We got you. Hold on.
Okay. And it's probably my side.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. Can you hear us?
Yeah. So should I?
Okay.
Should I go through the phone or?
Yeah, it's fine as long as they can hear you. We can keep it like this. Let's see.
Okay.
Are you all able to hear him clearly?
Just respond in the chat, y'all.
I need to charge you.
Can you hear me?
Set the iPhone.
Yeah. Yep, we can hear you good. And let me make sure the chat can hear you.
See, charge.
It's on the side of the bed. Come on, phone. Yeah.
It's a little hot.
Okay. Look like we're good. Look like we can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure where I cut off, and I apologize because I think it's really my side. It could be just the Wi-Fi is sketchy.
Yes. Okay. They said they can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. All right. So I'm not sure where I got dropped off, but I'll just kind of just close it here with regards to the fatherhood. Is that we need that metaphysical equality through that creative opposition that happens to in relationships where we have to keep balance, and when that balance is thrown out, whether it's through internal friction or external pressure, the Black family unit breaks down, and so it's so important. And even if there are men who don't have children themselves, but are in either household where the children are from their their spouse or other relationship, that man has to take on the role of a father as if though it was his own children in order for it to be, a very productive and enriching environment and environment for nurture and development into manhood. Because as much as strength as the women have, and they are able to do so much for the children, it takes a man to raise a man and or boy into manhood. And so it's just so vital, and it's just so important. And so many people have talked about the importance of fatherhood that are eminently more astute in terms of articulating that. But my focus is on the language and words and all of that kind of type of stuff with regards to opening up our minds minds and freeing our minds and understanding how language and words affect us, and the importance of really mastering language and mastering words and understanding that we bring meaning to life. They're just not sitting there as dead symbols.
That's really powerful, and I think that's important because the time of looking for a partner who doesn't have children already, I think like we're far past that. I think if that's the goal, then definitely you're going to have a lot less to choose from.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, this is so, and that's why it's important, because, like you said, that's, you know, it's largely that's what's going to be happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I have heard men say that you know, that they didn't want to be with a woman who had children, and a lot of times they had children, which was ironic. So it's true, it's a mindset shift. And so it sounds like what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but welfare was used as warfare against the family. Notice the wordplay, because every single issue is always goes back to the words. There's no way to get away from that. Is that correct?
True.
Okay.
That is true. Yes, and it's so interesting that, you know, that warfare and welfare, you know, was like Prego was in. You know, it's a twist on the language.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So one of the definitions, infinitions, I love that, infinitions, that I found that stuck out to me was a couple, but I did want to read one of these because I want to give people the example who don't have this book yet as to what they find in here. And let me say this, whether you're into any form of spirituality, it's some of everything sprinkled in here. I mean, even Maha Mudra, which is a Sanskrit word, is in the Funktionary. So, like, don't think that this is just like Ebonics. It's so much more than that. But I wanted to read the definition of Malcolmy, which was so mind blowing for me. It is the nefarious or diabolical use of metaphysical and occult knowledge by psychopaths for effectuating exploitation, vengeance, greed, control, oppression, cognitive disorientation, or profit at the intended victim's expense, which is to their detriment or demise. It is an intangible, monetized debt. It is an invisible, malchemical, necronomic incantation that is being perpetrated on the dwellers upon the prison planet called Earth. We have been cordoned off into arbitrary nations, states, and mentally colonized into divide and conquer within a majority fooled, minority ruled life equation, while being forced to use the very thing we least suspect is the parasite that is sucking the life force from us: tainted money, ghost dollars, phantom wealth. Monetized debt is only one, but is one of the most universally effective malchemical conjurations of the psychopathic elite who run the world affairs with or without your knowledge and without your tactic consent. When you need it to live and cannot live without it, how do you go about eliminating it? Think of oxygen. It is vital, but if it is tainted and slowly killing you from its very use through the respiratory process, what do you do to eradicate it or dispel it without eliminating yourself in the process?
Yeah. That, you know, that's so on point, Cam. At this juncture, from, you know, from what you were just what we were just talking about, and how words, how they use words in a way, and you know that the malchemy is is a portmanteau word, or connected through mal, which is a Latin and bad, and alchemy, is essentially a means of putting things together to refine into a higher essence. And so, yeah, I had, it's interesting that I had even forgotten that it was in the, that it was in there. Okay, yeah, Malcolm, yeah, I heard before. Okay, yeah. Because like you said, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because it's so much in here that I've put in over the years.
Yes.
And the crisscross referencing of things, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot for anybody that has any kind of spiritual orientation will benefit from a lot of the different ideas and connecting the dots that that people would not ordinarily know that there was a dot there, but through reading it and bringing, because also Cam and Ernest, so there's a lot of things over the course of my life. It's like I would venture to say, okay, well, this is a condition that we are experiencing, but there's no word for it. And then, I would give it some consideration, and, so sometimes things would come to me, either the words or the definitions, or the infinitions, as I like to say with on some of them, because definitions, well, you need boundaries to separate concepts, but everything interpenetrates everything. And so you have to allow, just like in life and anything that's living, it has to be breathing. So there's going to be nuance, there's going to be change and things of that nature. So you have to allow the actual language and the words that you are using to live and breathe life into you. And that's kind of where I see the difference between a typical dictionary and the functionary.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And to me, it is a map of, in the beginning, God spoke. So in order to reach godhood, there is an alchemical process that needs to take place of your language, but not just external, because I feel like we've mastered the external language part. We can talk all the positive shit all day long, but when things get rough, then that pessimistic voice, that inner critic, comes in and it kind of takes over. And words, just like somatics and the research of Dr. Emoto, it changes the shape of the molecular structure of water. And if we are more than 70% of water, that means that anything in life that needs an adjustment, the first thing to adjust is the internal language, taken back to the infinitions instead of definitions, going to inside. And so this leads me to this. One thing recently that I use the functionary for divination. So this is something that I have mentioned to my sisters in the coven, but open it to a page and just lay your hand on it and ask what is something that is going to be helpful for me, especially for my subconscious mind, or something that is affecting my life in a negative way I'm unaware of, and just open it to a page and read it. I feel like by doing that, you are removing the conscious mind, which has been so heavily programmed to be malchemical, and you're bypassing that. And so I did that before the show today, and it opened up to marriage license. And the interesting thing about this is that probably 2 weeks ago, falling asleep doing my meditation, and matrimony kept coming back to me. Matrimony. And I heard it loud and clear. You need to go back and study matrimony. And in studying matrimony, matriarch, going back to the woman, going back to the feminine, going back to the mother, the wise woman, the witch. And so what I found is that the vows created for the marriage license was weaponized words And what it did was, but this was before welfare, because they needed to get us from more than one angle. So before welfare could really even solidify itself, they created these vows, but these vows actually operate in a way that's alchemical to what relationships are actually supposed to be. And so one of the things in the vows that stood out was till death do us part. And we know there is no true death. We are immortal beings. We leave and we come back again. So if we take a vow with another person till death do us part, in unawareness, especially, if we take that vow, you're binding your soul to continue to reincarnate in close relationship with that person. And maybe you and that person were only supposed to have one lifetime together, but now this woman that you took these vows with, this man that you took these vows with, and maybe because of your own unhealed traumas and inner demons that you have not yet been able to manage and master over, you mistreat this person. And so what happens is in the next incarnation, this person may be your son, or maybe your daughter, or maybe your mother. And so there the relationship is already primed with trauma from the previous lifetime. But because you took the vow of till death do us part, and there is no death, you will continue to reincarnate in a trauma loop that you won't be able to break. So matrimony was actually a form of spell casting over people who were unaware.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a very very poignant you caught that, and that was very good, and there are so many that you will find, especially in what is called symbolography, and that's essentially the science of twisting words in a legal sense that will put you in a very obsequious position to the person who is over or writing the laws, so called.
That's really interesting, because considering that the justice of peace, if you look at marriage statistics, it's not a lot of peace happening, nor justice. And and I wanted to get into what is the frequency of the words that have been created for these relationships. And so, to quote the Funktionary, which gave me more confirmation on this download that I received, marriage license, it says a license or permission granted by public authority to persons who intend to intermarry, usually addressed to the minister or magistrate who is to perform the ceremony, or in general terms, to anyone authorized to solemnize marriages by statute. In most jurisdictions, it is made an essential prerequisite to the lawful solemnization of the marriage. Black's Law Dictionary, the marriage license is used as a means for the state to become a third party to a marriage between a man and a woman. The marriage license was created as a legal means for a Caucasian to marry someone of African descent or vice versa, which was outlawed and illegal without having a license from the state. If you are not intending to intermarry, then a marriage license should not be applied for, and in most cases is used as a legal trap by the state. Think about it. A license is permission to do something that would otherwise be illegal. It is not otherwise illegal to be married under common law, and the only reason it would be unlawful for two consenting adults to be married is if they were incompetent. Therefore, if a couple goes to the state and asks officers or employees of the state for a license where there is no other reason for them to need a license other than incompetence in law, and those requesting a license must be incompetent because that is the only reason they could need a license. Now, one must ask, when a bride and a groom are incompetent to be married without a state license, and an officer of that state grants that license, which is responsible for the marriage? The answer: the state. who is responsible for anything created in such a license and such hold on who is responsible for anything created in such a do the children created, am I saying this right, in such a hold on okay in such a licensed marriage? The answer is the state, and what typically is the thing created in such a marriage is children. Who then do the children created in a state licensed marriage belong to? The answer, they also belong to the state. In summation, the very fact that you ask for a marriage license admits or removes all doubts that you are incompetent to be otherwise married. The license doesn't remove your alleged incompetence. It merely transfers the responsibility of ownership of anything you create in the marriage to the party that issued the license, i.e., the private corporation known as the state of fill in the dot. A marriage license also gives a woman the state sanctioned privilege to drive a man right out of his mind. See Younger versus Harris, the Younger abstention doctrine, and Meister versus Moore of 1890s. There is a difference between marriage at common law and a common law marriage. Prior to 1834, there was no state involvement in marriage contracts. And then you also, of course, you have a C, parents, patria, intermarriage, misogyny, misogyny.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, you could just expound.
Yeah. So, I studied a lot of that early on in the early, I guess, late 80s and early 90s, and it was just eye-opening. It's like, wow, okay. And so I was like, well, and I made sure that I wrote, and thank you for, for articulating that, and to the audience, because when you realize the depth of deception and manipulation that is going on, not just in, personal interaction and how, but in our very instantiated in our very laws, statutes. That's where I came across the notion or the idea of symboliography, and it's studying a lot of the Black's Law Dictionary, and symboliography is simply legal phraseology developed and deployed by code encrypting esquires for the sole purpose of deception and obfuscation, making something clear become unclear and uncertain, ambiguous through wording that artfully confuses the reader. Grammatical imperfections hide lies, both tall and small. So, symboliography is simply a term that was created by, interestingly enough, by these same people that create these legal codes to demonstrate how words are twisted in a way to make things appear one way, and in reality they're another. And so, in doing a lot of the deep dives and a lot of the different areas within law, because I was looking at, ways to untether ourselves from different, what did they call them that I remember? Adhesion contracts. Yes, adhesion contracts. And we get ourselves pulled into a lot of things. Some of them, some things of which they are so ubiquitous now that it's almost like, if you try to get out of one, you're going to be stuck in another. If they don't get you here, they're going to get you there.
That's right.
And it's almost like it's just a never-ending, maze of things. If you extricate yourself one way, you come to find out that you're foot is stuck on something someplace else that they've got you for something that that you signed in some kind of way or implied in some kind of way or the other. So with all of that being said, it's really very, very difficult to try to extricate yourself out of all of the different things that they have over time set up for us to ensnare us in different ways. So at least we can be cognizant and aware of the means by which they are doing these things and expose them so that if we're at least aware of them, we can be looking out for them and try to um, avoid, if you will, certain things that may put us in an entrapped situation, whether it's contracts we sign or anything else. We have to become, word literate and symbol literate and understand that those who control are in control. They are not going to do anything in our best interest to allow us to free ourselves from that restriction. And so in the Funktionary, I try to do it 6 ways to Sunday to put words or to clothe different concepts with words or phraseology that identify it, that exposes it. I unpack it, I deconstruct it, and interrogate it to a certain extent. And once you have an opportunity to have your eyes open to different things, it will then put you in a more awareness ready posture mentally to say, hey, is what I'm signing up to, or is what is being articulated to me, is this doing, how am I being constricted? How am I being controlled? How am I being tethered to things that are to my detriment? And I just need to be more aware. So that's one of the reasons or rationales that I wrote Funktionary, for us to become more aware of how words are used and language are used to keep us oppressed and manipulated.
That's very well said. That leads me to the next definition that stood out to me, because we often hear people say everything is about the money. So in knowing that either through welfare, where we'll support you just enough to survive, but you need to make sure a man stays out of the picture, or through matrimony, through marriage licenses, you're binding yourself and your children. This is, a lot of people talk about soul harvesting, forced reincarnation, coming back to this planet, but not having any of the wisdom that you incurred previously. This is why we talk about a activation spiritually. It means to awaken something that is dormant within you, an ancestral intelligence that is dormant within you, because they have all of these systems set up to make us forget. So we come back to this world, we come back as babies, we still know a lot of stuff, but by the time we talking, we can't tell nobody nothing. It's been wiped from our mind. We don't remember our previous lifetime. We don't know that we're an old soul. And so that makes us a target. And so what I found was, if they don't get you that way, they'll get you with money. And what I see happening right now with the economy, one of the hidden diabolical purposes of the economy intentionally being destabilized is that a lot of men have equated their value to money, only to money. And it's okay for money to be a part of that, but for that to be a huge part of the way that you value yourself, to have the economy destabilized, I believe one of the nefarious intentions is to destabilize the male because they see us going through these quickenings, these healings, these awakenings. And so as we're going through this, they're using money and they're weaponizing scarcity to make us vibrate low. And so in reading the definition, because it's really stood out to me. Babe, can you take over and read this for me?
Sure.
Be gentle, because I've been reading the hell out of it lately. So
Money, my own natural energy yield, being the mathematical relativity of value carried out through a voluntary interpersonal split barter transaction within a convention of producer traders of labor, goods, and services under mutual acceptance. An abstract term mistakenly applied to direct barter and erroneously generally accepted by the public as a tangible medium of exchange, a medium of power through which we act and are acted upon. It is either at once both sacred and secular or neither. Money is neither a production or a consumption good. It is an abstraction based in relative measurement calculated in one's mind. Its primary function, it spelled like functionary, is to facilitate the exchange of goods and services by and among those who produce them without a non-producing or non-trading parasitic interloper entering in prior to, in between, or at the end of exchanges. Money is not a store of value. Value is subjective and cannot reside in an inanimate object. Money is the mathematical relativity of value. We view it as a symbol of our productive effort, which can be exchanged for things we desire. That's why we accept it to begin with, notwithstanding the fact that official political monetary units is the only game in town, at least for now. See Africash, money, debt system, credit, dollar, value, political money, worth, exchange, paycheck, cool, fishbowl, money, energy flow, econometrics, interest, cultural induction, taxtortion, slavery, labor, property, debt, free range slaves, tribute, virtual money, job, and currency switch.
now the amazing thing, a lot of amazing things, but one of the things, you were so far ahead of your time that you talked about how intangible it was. And I can't help but to see that with like cryptocurrency and a lot of this. They've taken what was once a piece of paper and they're making it even more intangible.
Yes, yes. And so I appreciate that, Ernest, and thanks for bringing that up. And so, interestingly enough, right around the time that I was writing The Functionary, I wrote a book called An Encyclopedia on the Sleight of Mind Trick called Money. Free your mind and your assets will follow. So it was a legal, historical, philosophical, and psychological treatment on the history and nature of the concept of money and exchange. And I did a deep dive because one of the things I was talking about before, Cam, was about how we are tethered and how different systems essentially control us. And I saw that that the money concept was being used against us and really enslaving us, because in one of the words or the terms at the end, Ernest, that at the cross-reference section after the definition or the definition, one of them was cultural induction, And essentially, I won't go there to the actual definition, but this is kind of a way in which you can see some of the structure of the functionary, because when I talk about different things, then at the end, I will say, see also, these other different terms, because they will give you a more nuanced, more connected, a more expanded and understanding and understanding of the relationship to the different systems that are in place and how they are essentially harvesting our energy.
Mm-hmm.
And money is the prime mechanism through which the corporate state and the banking systems, either individually and or collectively, they create the symbols that act as claims on our productive capacities, where we have to work for those symbols, but they who are non-producers have the privilege of creating those symbols that everybody else has to work for. So essentially what happens is that there's an imperceptible concentration of money, power, and control and resources from those who actually produce things of value to those who don't. Mm-hmm. And that is the the definition of cultural induction, because when we don't understand how, you see, and this is why it took writing a whole book or treatment on the nature and concept of money, because it has it is so complicated and nuanced from the history, because when you don't have terms and definitions locked down, then they can use those words in ways that obfuscate and hide really what is going on. And I'll give you an example. For instance, when we were using gold as money, as the concept of money, if you took it to a goldsmith or to the bank and you deposited that gold, let's say it's already in coin form, and you deposited it into a bank, that term deposit meant a physical and actual physical release of the actual wealth that you possessed. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was, and they would give you a receipt, to say, hey, you got on deposit $5 of gold. Mm-hmm. But over time, what happened is that when they demonetized gold and silver from the definition of a dollar itself, then they also used the term deposit as something that they could create out of thin air simply by a entry in their double accounting system. Yeah. So you cannot have something that is a physical deposit and then also something that you were saying that is a deposit that's immaterial and intangible. Mm-hmm. So at that point, those who had the control over the systems of money, banking, and finance, they really made the what we used as money really no object. And so you have to be able to trace, and I can't get into it right because I don't want to, because if I start talking, I'm going to pull myself further down, and it will take much more time, because it's a whole rabbit hole to go through. Mm-hmm. To be able to understand from the times of goldsmiths, mm-hmm. up until now, and all the different things, but always it has been those who do not produce wealth imperceptibly concentrated through the very mechanism of monetized debt. Mm-hmm. And And so you have to really, in order to adequately understand it, you have to be able to lock down definitions, and you have to be able to trace back what was happening. For an example, and I'll give you one more example, and then I'll get off of it. Most people, if they even have read it in the Constitution, it says Congress shall have the power to coin money. And that coin was a capital C, coin money. It does not mean that Congress had the power to create money. That was called emitting bills of credit. So most people think that government has or at least here in the United States, the Constitution, that the government is responsible for creating money or creating what we use as money. And in reality, that is a violation, really, of the Constitution. And then when the Federal Reserve was created, it is a publicly chartered but privately held institution. Essentially, the government farmed out its money creation machinations over to the private banking, international banking cartel. And so the point I'm trying to make is that unless and until we understand collectively as people who are producers of wealth and value, that we have to create the systems, and keep in mind, there is no laws against individuals creating their own systems to freely and mutually exchange their own productive capacity. So the problem is that until we figure that out, and we figure and understand that we have the ability to create the symbols that act as claims on our own productive capacities and each other's through clearing mechanisms. And that's really the key in all of this. You know, the banking systems have clearinghouse functions, and they clear each other's debts or IOUs, or floating, whatever they're referring to monetized debt as money right now. Whatever they clear each other, but they are non-producers. We need to create our own systems where we clear each other's credits and debits and obligations to each other, because no one in law, it's really unjust enrichment is really the legal term for what banks are doing, and it's really against the law. But because there's so much obfuscation and so much amorphous terms and terminologies within banking and things of that nature, that they have got away with it, and they have the power structure. The communication systems are in place. The clearinghouse systems are in place. The bank, the legal system is on board, and there is no one that I can't say no one. There are hardly few of us that understand this trail, if you will, that would allow someone to go and to the legal system to say, hey, banks are prevented from being able to create money out of thin air, and the government is prevented from creating money out of thin air. That and they struck that in the Constitution, where it said emit bills of credit. It's all in the Federalist Papers, and anybody that wants to do their own research can do that. But so if the banking system cannot create money out of thin air, and if the government cannot create money out of thin air, then how are they getting away with it? And it would take someone. It would take let's put it this way. As Frederick Doe said, power conceives nothing without a demand. It never has and never will. So, the chances of that happening are slim to none, and slim just walked out the door, because it would undermine, if you will, their whole system of control, power, and exploitation. So anyway, I know I went down maybe deeper than than I should. But for the point of this particular, you know, dialogue. But anyway, that's my take on it. But it's a lot. It's so much that we have to really understand with that, because, and I'm going to say one other thing, and I'll get off of it. When Bitcoin was created by, when the white paper on Bitcoin came out, it was a combination of that whole idea of, the libertarian community and what they called cypherpunks at that point in time, people that were doing a lot with hacking and coding and things of that nature. It really came out of that, because the libertarians were saying, hey, we need to have our own systems in place where, banks or governments are not exploiting us, and it's a legal way to do that. So, but the problem is with Bitcoin is that the idea of it is great, in the sense that, yeah, let's create a system that, that allows us to trade and exchange peer to peer without the government or banking interlopers in place. But the problem is that as soon as it lacked the component of understanding that money is the mathematical relativity of value. So then they're still creating it as, well, to buy this Bitcoin, then you're going to have to use you're going to have to use fiat currency to purchase it. And now it becomes an asset, and so forth and so on. So then the asset becomes artificial value, and then it can actually be manipulated just like anything else. And that's, I knew that was what was going to happen to it. And that's exactly what has happened. So nobody has come up with, well, I'm saying nobody, I won't get into that. But anyway, that's what I'll keep it right there for the purpose of this conversation.
That is, the audience is loving it. We loving it. My goal was to activate things that you were passionate about. And y'all can y'all can definitely hear that he's passionate about this. And I think that it's really important what he's saying, because first of all, let me say this before we go any further. If you are enjoying this live stream and you are not able to purchase a Funktionary, we have set up where you can do a payment plan, and it's just $40 every 30 days. And you'll be done paying for it after 90 days. We spend more than that on food for one, a meal for one, a movie for two. So it's doable. That's set up through the website. And the links are all here available. If you can't find something, just let us know. We'll get it to you. It's important for us to circulate more money within the communities of people who are doing things to be in service to helping us, number one. Number two, if you would like to just give a donation, the link has been made available for that. If you cannot find it, we will make sure that we make that available for you. Number three, you could also do a super chat while we're on the live stream, and that will also help us to continue to do what we're doing. And I have to say this, most people in the melanated community, we have very toxic relationships with money. And as he said in the beginning, that money is my own natural energy yield. So if your relationship, and it's no shame, this is not to shame anybody, because we are working through some of our own things. Yes. But a lot of this is because of the language that we did not know, Black's Law Dictionary, contracts that we didn't fully understand. And a lot of this is from being the lineage of people who did have to slave and who were not given what they were worth. Right. That creates a money wound, and that wound permeates through your frequency. So even if you're working hard, you will find yourself not being able to get ahead or to keep up with what's happening. It's not the output of physicality. It is the calibration of alignment. And so you have to be self-aware, pay attention to your mindset. What attitude do you have when you're sitting down doing your budget? When a problem happens and you got to get something fixed and it's an unexpected expense, what emotional reaction do you have in that moment? In order for us to be able to reach a healthier relationship with money, I feel that this is one of the most important places to begin doing that. I know other people are telling you that you can um send me some money and you will get more money. Um Go to church and pay some tithes and you will get more money. You know, I went into the deep dive about tithes, and most money that goes through churches actually funds the very wars that are a reason that we're experiencing scarcity and so much bloodshed now. And on a karmic level, that creates a cause and effect. So even if you didn't know, but if you're giving money to someone who is operating in lieu with the government, and that is allowing them to have money to fund the wars. Yes, some of that responsibility, accountability, karmic debt will be applied to you. And this is why they say don't avoid giving tithes. They make it seem like it's one of the most important things to do is to give 10%, but that's because of what we're exposing now, the god of war and the god of money. They worship them. And these are frequencies that can be tapped into for your own benefit as well, and we've talked about that. But before you even get into that, before you even get into anything to try to bring more money to you, you first need to get in order. What is my mindset like, and what is my vibration like? And let me get to a healthier place. Let me detach my ego from my monetary value. Let me learn how to work better by what's in my hands, become the alchemist that I'm meant to be. Because if we're not good at anything else, we know how to survive. And so the goal is for us to heal our relationship with money, for men to not identify their worth by money alone, because it is simply currency, and currency is a feminine attribute. Currency is flow. That is a feminine attribute. So another main thing that they teach in all of these other cultures that they have actually done the reverse in our culture, which is take care of your woman, take care of your daughter, take care of your mother. They might not be perfect people, they might have issues, but the more that you take care of them and you prioritize their well-being, you will have more money, currency. And that currency, that current will flow to you because you are investing in the feminine. Again, currency is a feminine attribute. So this is why they program men to feel like simps if they were given money and not getting sex in return or getting something in return. They program men to be pimps so that you're taking from the woman, using her sacred energy for your purposes for money. And all of these things create curses. And this is why the Black man has not been able to free himself from the curse of having to slave, and by the sweat of his brow that he can make money. And so I feel that it's really important for me to get that out before we go to this next definition. But Dr. Blynd, how do you feel about what I've just expressed?
Wow. I mean, that was very, very on point, and very it speaks to a much deeper understanding of connection, relationship, and interaction, and it really goes back to this whole notion of metaphysical equality within the notion of relationship itself, and attaching the whole notion of flow and currency and to the feminine. It is very appropriate, and yeah, I mean it's going to take it's going to take it's not going to happen overnight by any stretch of imagination, because the trauma, the misunderstanding, the systems that are in place to disrupt those things are so entrenched that we're going to have to really systematically work on ourselves in all aspects of ourselves. So that's why this thing is a spiritual, it's a lived calculus, if you will. And we have to approach and work on ourselves. And we have to, even though, we are, whether we realize it or not, the capital I am, but we also have to work through our body-mind complex, and we also are the individual, capital I, small am. And so we have to work in both of those. We have to behold the illusion and know the reality at the same time and function within that balance. Because if we go in one direction and say, well, I'm the awareness to which all the things happening and I don't have to do anything because everything's everything, it creates an imbalance because the relationship is primary. And in order to do that, there has to be creative opposition at play. All of that creative opposition, it does not have to be conflict so much so, or confrontation, but you have to have that creative opposite tension in order for any relationship to survive. Otherwise, it essentially, gravitates to one polaric end or another, which does not do the relationship, any good, and it's not able to function. So, yeah, I think that what you just went over is very important, and that was just kind of my comments on that.
Beautiful. I think Ernest found another word that jumped out at him.
Yeah. The term that you used was it symbiography or symbiography? Yeah. And as you all been talking and I'm just listening, the term legalese was just jumping all over it because over the past few years I've been studying into a lot of stuff as it relates to contract law and things like that. And like you said, there is so much that whether we do not endorse, and then sometimes we endorse things that like you mentioned, it binds us to it, and like you spoke of. And so you, in reading the term money, you said you didn't want to get into cultural induction, but I did look at it, and
you're gonna bring it out anyway.
I'm gonna bring it out anyway. Exactly. And so but it is just right on time. I mean, it was just like because as I noticed, it pretty much every turn said go back and check out cultural induction. You know what I mean? So yeah.
You might want to check that out, right?
Exactly. The phenomenon whereby a debt-based monetary system appropriates the energy of its users and falsely assumes our individual and collective identity. The mostly undetectable means by which entities, parentheses, national government, and commercial banks that do not create wealth steal from those who do create and exchange wealth, trade, buying, and selling without compensation. Now, cultural induction is the means by which the first tax or real tax operates. Whoever creates the symbol appropriates and owns the energy. Those circulating symbols purchase. With stark simplicity and exotic elegance, Dr. Blynd weaves a non-linear semiotic web of compound thought signs, dulcet symbols, and remedic terms, signaling a paradigmatic dramatic shift in language culture, taking on increasing complexity, ambiguities, perplexities, elusiveness, inconsistencies, and paradoxes, both reflective of and reflexive with a more integrated consciousness, aligned with quantum reality and our spiritual unfoldment within and through it.
Mm.
Yeah. See second tax, real tax, hidden tax, geo money, monetized debt, property, gang banking, and slavery.
Mm. Gee.
Yeah. That was necessary.
Yeah. So if you have a comment, let me just interject that. I
Yes.
appreciate you reading that, Ernest.
Mhm.
One of the things that terms that we have to really understand is what I don't think you're going to find it in the economic textbooks, or at least not the ones that are taught in academia, is unearned symbolic value. And unearned symbolic value is simply somebody that does not create value or wealth, creating the symbol that acts as a claim or demand on other people's productive capacity.
Mm.
If you are not creating value, wealth, goods, services, you are not ethically, morally, or legally should not be allowed to create something, a means or a trick by which you are siphoning the life force and the productive energy of somebody else without them, even if they realize it. That should be prohibited in all facets of life, because it doesn't happen in nature. And so that is what is cultural induction, is that unearned symbolic value. And that is how wealth, power, control, and resources are imperceptibly concentrated into the hands of those who do not create value and money and have to exchange. Because the banks don't have to exchange. They don't have to create. Think about this. Let's say you're an artist and you have you're a very well-known artist, and you take one of your original paintings to a bank. Let's say you quote unquote borrowed, money, quote unquote money from the bank, or let's say $5,000 or $1,000, and then you say, well, I'm bringing this artwork, and everybody, you could go online and see that it's selling for $10,000-$20,000 for any original print per se. You go to the bank and you say, hey, well, I've got, I'm going to pay my loan back with one of my paintings. And, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. They're going to say, well, no, we're not in the business of exchanging. And you go and find somebody else out there that's going to pay you in the monetized debt that we create. And then you come back with it. So the point is that they're not in business to create and exchange. That's not the business, and neither is that of government. So anybody that doesn't create goods, labor, services should be prohibited from creating an unearned symbolic value claim on anybody else's productive capacity.
That's interesting. And so it makes it make sense when you think about the creeds that were created by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and how they dictated the way that they would set up these systems. And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it is more, the systems are in place and they are more sophisticated now. The means by which to really understand how that happened would take, to do it correctly, would take basically, some seminars. And when I say seminars, I mean, it would take, a couple of hours, in successive time, and, on a whiteboard and everything like that, to really kind of show how all of this has come to play. And so, and I did that to a great extent in that book, encyclopedia on the Sleight of Mind, called Money. And I am, in all likelihood, maybe in 2027, I may republish it, or certainly maybe do some slight edits, even though, it was ahead of its time, because of, all the things that we are talking about with money now. I kind of pointed out where it was going and what the problems were, because it's just like anything. If you understand the essence or the nature of something, and you can it essentially predict how it's going to unfold. And that was it was pretty clear. Once you thoroughly understand it, then you could really kind of foresee what was going to happen. And sure enough, I mean, somebody picked it up now, it's 30 years later, and say, wow, this was pretty whatever. But in any event, so that is in the Funktionary. I talk a lot. I have a lot of entries, as you may be able to see, that deal with the concept of money and exchange, and how we are being exploited and oppressed through that very system. And until it's like, whether another thing, and this is opening another Pandora's box, but the difference between capitalism and socialism, people say, okay, well, the capitalists are greedy, and the socialists, we want to have a more, equal distribution of this, that, and the other. But what people don't understand is that, they don't understand, if they haven't done the research and history to understand certain things. Socialism is a stepchild or a aspect of communism, and communism, in the fifth plank of the Communist Manifesto, is centralization of wealth centralization of credit in the hands of the state. And so that is exactly what we have with the Federal Reserve System. So people don't realize that just because you call it, socialism and monopoly capitalism are the same thing. And it would take maybe further elucidation of some historical stuff to be able to show that. But the point I'm trying to make is that as long as it is under this concept of authority and under the concept of the centralization of credit or unearned symbolic value in the hands of the state, it doesn't make it's just two flavors of the same thing that's going on. And so monopoly capitalism is the hijacking of capitalism by the banking structure. Socialism is already hijacked by the banking structure, because that's the fifth plank of the Communist Manifesto. Monopoly capitalism happened with the instantiation of the Federal Reserve System. So when people are saying, well, it's a greedy capitalist or greasy socialist, or, you got right versus left and left versus right and all this other kind of type of stuff, the only thing that I can say about neither one of them, neither socialism nor monopoly capitalism, will ever free us. It will only continue to, make us even just as, oppressed as it ever has been. The only thing that I can say about socialism or a redistribution of wealth is that because of monopoly capitalism and socialism, because of the concentration of wealth in an asymmetric form where 1% controls, I don't know how many, 54 trillion or whatever the case is. And the point I'm trying to make in all of this is that you can put in the most perfect exchange system that anybody could possibly think of that would be fair, equitable, even, open, convivial, open to all, so forth and so on. You could put that in place, but it would take a million years to overcome the wealth that has been asymmetrically distributed to those who have stolen wealth through slavery, through other things, and through the banking mechanisms over the course of time. So, in order for there to be any kind of rebalancing, there would have to be some redistribution of wealth, because you cannot black capitalism out of your oppression. You can't socialism yourself out of the oppression, because the power, control, and the wealth and the resources have already been, and the communication rails, the infrastructure, you can go on down and you can name it, sit all the way down the line. There's no way to overcome someone that has already been so far out ahead of you, and the very means by which you're trying to catch up is the very means by which they have basically put themselves in a position of hegemony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That, yeah. So this is, that's why I say it's really important how you spend your money, who you spend your money with. Most communities, they know how to keep money circulating in a community.
Right.
In our community, $1 don't even stay in our community. We're not even circulating $1 towards each other. And as we talked about before, unfortunately, there were others who was sharing their knowledge with the community of people seeking truth and higher consciousness, and their lives usually ended with them not having enough money to take care of their funeral.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. And let me just point out, it was so sad for me to see a lot of the pioneers that in the so-called conscious community. Dr. John Henry Clark, late in his life, just kind of, not having a lot of our scholars that have put a lot of time and sacrifice and effort into making information and concepts available to the masses, ended up in just very dire situations towards the end of their life. I was very good friends with Brother Steve Coakley, and it was very difficult for me to see, him go through what he did towards the end of his life, and the lack of resources that were available, for him with regards to his health challenges and different things that were going on with him at that time, and ultimately, he succumbed to those things. And I still feel that certain people that I won't go down, I won't go all into all of this, but we all know that people that have our brothers and sisters who have put the time and the sacrifices in become targets. I'll just put it that way. And some of them survive and some of them don't. And lastly, I remember a sister out of, I think it was, I was supposed to speak on a platform with Brother Delbert Blair up in Philadelphia. And I think it was about 3 months before he passed away, the sister up in Chicago who was putting it on called me up, and it was about a week and a half before, or a week before it was supposed to happen, told me that, Delbert was, having some health challenges and they were going to have to postpone it. And, 3 months later, he had transitioned and under, what I would venture to say, very suspect circumstances. And so we all know, we all know the story. So there's no need for me to, so much further elaborate on that, but we really have to start setting up institutions that allow for the organization and archiving of intergenerational knowledge and artifacts and things of that nature that will help folks that come, that our children and grandchildren have to have access to. And I'm, interestingly enough, talking to a brother up in New York about some things with regards to some archiving and a physical place to have some of that stuff done. So we're working on some things of that nature. But yeah, I just want to make that comment. Rest in peace.
Yes.
Steve Oakley is a very good friend of mine.
Yes, yes. This is, it's to our detriment if we don't do a better job at supporting those who put their energy into helping us. We become a part of the problem instead of the solution. And so many of us may feel small. And this is why I say, even if it's just $1 donation, like give it. Don't hold on to it and give it. Because this spiritual warfare needs to be fought on more than one level. And money is deeply tied to the spiritual realm. And so learning how to use your money so that it benefits your community and works for you, I think is really important, which I think Ernest had one more word he wanted to go over, and then I wanted to get into the soul, because this is really important. And today is the summer solstice, and the summer solstice represents the soul, it represents the father, it represents the consciousness, it represents the masculine. So it's no coincidence that we're doing this today, and having these conversations, this dialogue. And so I tell people, if you have a service or something that you're providing, like, come in, share it with us, and we will share it. Don't think that anything, don't think that things don't count because it's small, because it does. And we've spent so much of our wealth supporting people who was doing some really, really nefarious things behind the scenes. The people who are out here doing the work to be in service to others, we're having to deal with informants and people, coming in with other intentions. And so one of the things that we can do to safeguard our communities and support our elders, support the teachers who came before us and teaching this knowledge, it is so important that we do that. We cannot say anything about anybody else's culture, race, or ethnicity or community, because one thing is for sure: Black people, indigenous, EU melanated, non-ether people. Like, we are quantum processors. Having EU melanin alone is a highly conductive material, which means if we use our money with more intention, it doesn't matter the amount. We can begin actually putting cracks in these systems so that we can get ideas and reconnect with people who can help us to do what it is that we are here to do.
Yeah, very, very, very much so.
Okay, you go back.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to, in observance of it being Father's Day, I want to speak life into not only myself, but all of us as men and fathers. And it's something that you said, what you said, because the word that I was going to, the word that I want to, the definition that I want to share right now is father. Um, if we look at father in a regular dictionary, it is nothing. I just say it's nothing compared to what we're about to hear, and that just speaks volumes to this volume of work called the Funktionary. Um, I want to call it Functionese, and that's what I'll start calling it. You know what I mean? But 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 father, a spiritual metaphor for the true self. the direct connect to the universal consciousness. The Father and I am one. The ongoing work of an actual flesh and blood Father is constantly finding a balance between being an undue and undone influence on and in his children or child's life. See Legacy, True Self, Isis, Horus, The Father, and Hug Life. That's HUGG. So you gotta have the functionary to see for Hug Life.
Hug Life is Hug Life is one of those that took me down into a rabbit hole. And not to interfere if it's something you wanted to share, but I did want to say this part. Um, just in hearing that, we can see the impact of having young bucks from slavery. It is embedded in the molecular structure of us. It's called epigenetics, where the environmental conditioning imprinted itself on us psychologically to be passed down generationally. So nothing ever has to be taught. It simply is passed down from what was happening with us when you look at trauma. And when I see that, I know the difficulties that we have had with fatherhood, me being the more sensitive, intuitive one, him being the more logical one. Sometimes knowing how to handle the feminine gently, how to hold safe space, how to not be triggered and not be defensive. It's a work, and it is an ongoing work. And as it states, this is something that you will continuously work on throughout being a father. But one of the things that I wanted to say was, just like with welfare, they gave us another father to oversee us, which is the Father in heaven. And this particular father, he rules with an iron fist. He takes the lives of anybody who is not moving in alignment with what he has said to be righteous and holy. He is a father who sacrificed his own child for grown people who could not stop doing wrong. And so when you look at how religion bound us in these philosophies subconsciously, it is very damaging. And so because of this created emotional insecurity. It created a lack of emotional intelligence within the man, within the father. And so they're just now really healing some of these things coming into this. But to have a father sitting up above us, watching us, judging us, who was willing to sacrifice his own child, I mean, it's no wonder that we see so much abuse that is happening, because we gave consent as people by consenting to those beliefs and not questioning them. And so the definition of religion in the functionary is another one that we definitely recommend for you to read and for you to study, so that you can begin unbinding, undoing, and deconstructing. Because a lot of us are trying to heal ourselves, be a better version of ourselves, but we're trying to spread frosting on top of shit. And when you get done doing that, the cake's still made out of shit. And so you're just changing the aesthetic, but you're not changing the internal. And so through working with the functionary, you can change the programming. And look at computer coding, language models that we are now training. And so AI is learning things, and AI is becoming a better father than fathers, and even than Father God. It was put in place because that system is collapsing. People are waking up and pulling themselves away to that system. So of course they create, let me give you another father. And this is someone who can be an authority in your life. You can seek information from this particular entity, because that's what AI is. It's an entity. Egregor, thought forms, demigods, whatever you want to call it, gens. And so we see this constant restructuring, but at the end of the day, the most powerful father is one that can admit his mistakes, one that can allow himself to be course corrected when need be, versus trying to always be the one that holds the gavel and all of the power and do as I say, which the patriarchy program us to do. And pattern all connects back to father.
Very well said. Yeah, and that the phrase that corrective course, that's very profound.
Beautiful. So we have one last word.
Correction. Yeah.
Right.
Constantly.
Yes, and it's the same for mothers and for women, because a lot of women, because of the way the family was destroyed, a lot of women actually became really great fathers, but really terrible mothers. And that was the case for me. I was a single mother for 14 years. I was really good at being a father. I was not so good at being a mother. I knew how to work hard. I knew how to produce. I knew how to provide. I knew how to protect. But the feminine element was missing. And so, yeah, just to say, this is how they invert our roles and confuse us, as you've talked about a lot. But that brings me to one of the this is the last word. I promise it's the last one. We might have to do a part 2.
Okay.
Soul. Solace of unconditional love. A state, temporary, self-relationally aspect of impersonal consciousness within which all sense of separation from the one life, love, dissolves. The essential being of a Hue, man, in direct relation to the universe and all that appears, which it is part and parcel of, the interpreter and determiner of values, sacred, non-identification, a state of consciousness within which all sense of separation from life and identification with ego dissolves. The reign of righteousness, reality, consciousness within resonating without, unconditioned body neutrality. The body mind, which one is currently inhabiting, is the source of both pain and pleasure. A morphogenic holographic force field within consciousness, the individuated form of divine intelligence that animates personality, positively charged light wave power, a template of the body's experience, a memory engram in the flesh, the temple of one's experience while you're walking around in this reality, unreal illusion, a passing show that you call life, the real world, a non-physical aspect of one's total self, a formless immaterial unit of relative awareness. Soul, the essence seed of any idea, the essence, idea, or light of man in the image of divine intelligence, an extension of the divine plan of creation, of an eternal nature in the creative process of becoming or realization of being. Soul is our conception of the indwelling aspects of self. We do not have a soul, it is not a possession or an object. Soul is that holographic essence permeating organisms that enable them to retain their sense of undivided wholeness, uninterrupted consciousness continuum, even when their material structure is split into bits. There is still reality in every bite. BYTE. I could just keep going because this just keeps going, but you're gonna have to get to Funktionary to read the rest of it, because it goes on and on and on. And I don't know if
More than what you read.
right, infinitions might also mean infinite, because these are infinite meanings.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have, what I would like to maybe just, suggest to your audience at this point is that we all need to work on our spiritual unfoldment into awareness. And at the same time, we live in two worlds. We live in an apparent duality. So we have to, we have to have the doing with the being. And so on the doing side, in the relationship side, it's not only the relationships that are going on within our own self and in our relationships and our families and out into the greater world. We have to do the things that will bring more sanity, more clarity, more peace, more harmony in our circles. And when we do that, the resonation of that energy will allow for a much more meaningful and less exploitive existence. And when we are in a position to be able to, maximize a template that the structure through which allows a harmonious existence, or more harmonious existence, then we'll all be better off, and we will all ascend in a manner in which is indicative of man's possible evolution and consciousness. So we want to arise in love. We want to understand that conflict is a part of life, and it serves an existential purpose. And we should not look at conflict as something that is being problematic, but as a means by which we grow. And how do we solve confrontation and conflicts, and how do we go about doing those things, whether it's a male-female relationship or whether it's a more larger external, family situation or community. We have to understand that there are nested relationships that are going on, and that the more that we work on ourselves and understand that we have to activate this inner spark of awareness and deconstruct the egoic architecture, then when we're able to do that, we're able to relax more in our own relationships, and then be able to be more productive and more amenable to other people in their own journeys, wherever they are. And I would lastly say, we should not try to change anyone. We simply should be reflections and mirrors to allow other people to see that which is in themselves, because you can never change anybody's mind, really. You can only be an example and to be a mirror for that person to come to a realization within themselves. And I think that, the less we try to, change people's minds, we just, we move the way we move, and then perhaps they will see the benefit and the patterns that create a more harmonious interaction. So that's kind of one of the last things I want to mention before we check out.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Trauma has definitely made it difficult to approach conflict in healthy ways. A lot of us are conflict avoidant. A lot of us, especially with everything that's happening, the chaos in the world, we don't want to do anything that's going to make home life more difficult or work life more difficult. So we can tend to swallow our words, and we can tend to repress emotions, and not express them. But that's energy that needs to be in motion. Whenever it's not in motion, that's when you have mental health issues and health issues breakdown as well. So that was very well said. I find that to be something that's been challenging, so much so that I wrote an entire book about it, about how men can walk an alchemical process to become a safe place. It's just $10 right now, y'all. So y'all can grab that book. And it has 8 astrological points that's specific to your soul's contract to help you, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. Each person has their own soul mission and something that they are here to learn. So I did write that, and I wrote a companion for that for women as well. Sis, Unfuck Your Savior Complex, because women, we have been programmed to try to save everybody and fix everything until you start to heal. It is what it is. And we are a generation of women who just 4 or 5 generations ago had women whose children was taken away from them, but they had to breastfeed master's baby and they had to raise master's baby. And that had a deep psychological negative impact on us. So this is why you see so many Black women exhausted, tired, with autoimmune diseases, reproductive issues, cancers, and we're trying to be everything to everybody. We're trying to manage everybody's emotions. It's the only time that we feel safe. And he said something so important, which is to get out of survival mode and heal your nervous system, because that alone is going to make money management more difficult. So that would be like, that is the first, these are some of the first things, the foundation of reconstructing a community that is based around love and not fear. When we learn how to create a safe space and not expect somebody outside of us to change what they're doing, but to change the frequency that we operate within, and then we can actually impact other people without trying to change them. And as he say in the Funktionary, we learn to be Chinese. And Chinese is to shine your light for the world to see, like a beacon beaming out into the nighttime expanse of the vast sea, the darkness of mass unconsciousness, domesticated populace. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm Chinese. That's the goal.
Shine your own light.
Told you it's dysfunctionese we talking. Yeah.
Yes. So, but we're going to make the Functionary available. If you all have any trouble, just let us know. It's there. And was it any closing words? I'm gonna try to play a song. If I can't play the song, I will put the link to the playlist underneath the description of this video as well. But we want to thank you, Dr. Blynd. Was there anything else that you wanted to say to the people? Are you open to coming back for another show? And if so, if you got some ideas, just let us know, because it seems like it's some things that want to talk about. And we want to be able to be that safe place to have these conversations.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I would love that. So, we can kind of, figure out, we can talk offline and figure that out and queue it up. Lastly, I guess what I would like to say is just I really appreciate all that you and Ernest are doing with your platform, and and your gifts and insights and things. I'm just, I, I'm lost for words for saying how important it is what you all are doing, and I'm most appreciative.
Oh, thank you.
We feel the same way.
Yes.
Yes, we feel the same way. This is what a soul family does.
Yes.
Yes. This is what a soul family does. And there's no competition, there's no backbiting, there's no gossiping, no negative energy between us. We hold ourselves to operate in integrity with one another. And this is the energy of rebuilding our community and figuring out who your soul family is. We don't always get the biological family that we want, but we can pick our soul family.
That's right.
Now
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I guess this is the end of the show. All of the links are available. You all reach out if you have any difficulties. I'm gonna see if I can go out with a song. We'll see if it let us do it. If it won't, like I said, I will post it. But let's see. It was funny because before we got on here, it was working just fine, and then as soon as we got on here, it stopped working. But that's okay. The whole album is available. We got it working. Look at that. Ashe.
Don't touch nothing.
I ain't gonna touch nothing. I'm just gonna cut it up a little bit. Can y'all hear that?
I gotta say this. For real this time.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. I know that you weren't ready to really give me love. Maybe you did it only just because you were hurting deep inside. And I held you like a hug. I saw myself in you, I hurt you when I do that thing. Why do I choose to repeat patterns when anger is infused? Every day I choose to be better. And baby, you have been the reason I wanted to improve. Here's my deepest truth, I didn't wanna hurt you. I'm working on myself, it's what I need to do to be a safer place for you. Yeah, yearning for your body to relieve my stress was a way I disrespect. I ain't know it, but a change is in effect. Yeah, regulating my nerves so I can be the best version of myself. When you hold me accountable, I used to get mad, defensive, viewing you as a threat. Who attacks? I feel like my mind be getting hacked. It's unfair for me to expect sex when I be acting like that. You forgive me over and over again. I hate to admit, but I feel like I don't deserve your love as my woman or my friend. You ain't my fault, you the reason that I glow. I wanna let you know I'm ready to be the man that you needed. Now I know the value of a woman who is willing to let me grow. I was in a safe place, but I'm learning to be. I took your life for granted. Now I see, every time you cried, I should've held you closer. Instead I made you feel like you were the accuser. I don't want your body if I can't have your heart. I'm tearing down the walls that kept us apart. This is my letter, my promise, my start, to be the man who deserves to love you to part. I used to think that strength meant never been it. Now I know the bravest thing is admitting I was pretending. I had it together when I was breaking you inside. Pretending I was a king when I was just running and hiding. But you stayed. Even when I pushed away. Now I'm here on my knees, not for show. Just a man who finally wants to grow. I see you now, the real you. And I'm gonna spend every day becoming someone worth coming home to. Thank you for not giving up on me. Yeah.
All right, y'all. So that song is not out yet. I'm sitting on a lot of music. I'm gonna be releasing it slowly as I go. But yeah, as you can see, I actually wrote that song channeling Ernest.
Yep.
he, he was the inspiration. I wrote that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Damn good song, man.
I hope that I captured the unspoken words of many men. I believe that it is their desire to be a safe space. But better late than never.
That's right.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure.
All right. So this is the end of the show. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget your donations. The Funktionary is available. The books are available for just $10 on the website. Patreon is available for free and up. You get 450 decodings and videos and information I can't even say here because I would get banned. So yes, that's there. And the coven is open for my sisters out there who would like to work a little bit closer with me to see what am I doing in the background to put myself in the frequency that I keep myself in. That's available just $2.99 and up. So we're making things available for you and making it as simple as possible. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Blynd. We'll be talking on the background for the next show.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace, peace.
Peace and blessings.